Hey everyone, Tyrone here, former Australian athlete on the national team for 5 years, and recently taking a break and trying to help as many athletes as I can with sponsorship, online working opportunities, and just general life in their sporting career. So let's get started. We're going to start every video with a Q&A from now on. So make sure you ask any questions you have about anything at all to do with sport. My background's in Taekwondo, obviously, so I can base things off of my experience in that and marketing and the work I do online, which I've been working online now for 5 years as well, I think. Maybe it's more like 4. Anyway, let's get straight to it, Q&A. Thank you so much for leaving questions, and for anyone that wants to ask questions moving forward, there's no right or wrong questions, no silly questions, just ask them, but don't be shy, and I'll do my very best. So, let's start off with the first one, and we've got a question from Maddie, and miss you dearly, Maddie. Hope you're training hard and enjoying everything that's going on at the moment. I think you recently went to Korea for a training camp and China as well, so that's pretty awesome. Sure you're back in Melbourne now training hard. Anyway, would love to know if you have any advice or ideas on using personal brand to attract sponsorship opportunities. I find this quite hard to navigate in the middle ground of connecting and communicating with potential sponsors. Absolutely. Let's talk about that right away. I've got some dot points here to help me, and let's jump straight in. So, sponsorship. This is a big one. This is one that everybody struggles with, even the top athletes across all sports can get this wrong. And because it's greatly uncharted territory and it's business, you have to really think about things from a different perspective when you approach sponsorships. So first thing is a mindset shift. You have to move away from what you want, and you have to think in the sponsorship's shoes, or the sponsor's shoes rather. You have to put yourself in their position and think, what would I be wanting if I wanted to have an athlete come on board and help us? So let's talk about that. How do sponsors think about sponsorship? Well, what do they want from you? They want their products demonstrated. So if you can think of any sponsorships or any companies, that you already use their products or services regularly, or if there's anything that you would like to be using but haven't gotten to it yet, then, or you want to try it maybe, and then you find out you love it, that's a great match. That's a great box ticked right there. And then what they get out of that is credibility. So if you're posting all over social media that you love this product and it's genuine, you do love it, and you use it every day, then that's something that could be reposted by the company, and that shows the company's audience, oh wow, people really like this product. It's marketing. It's very valuable to them. So that's where the credibility comes from. Then you've got brand visibility. So that's got to do with your following on social media. Now, I'm quite aware that especially the people I know in Taekwondo, including myself, look, our channels aren't big. We don't have much weight carried through our brand visibility potential for companies. However, that doesn't stop this to be a growth opportunity for both the company and for you. So as long as you align in all the other ways that I've pointed in this first little section here, then that's something that can be improved. So the way that works, and you need to be really careful when striking a deal with a sponsor, is the way you're interacting online. So, you get a lot of sponsors that are requesting a package. They might approach you, especially if they're not being firm with what you want. And they might say, okay, we want every 2 weeks for you to film yourself using our products and send us the link. And then if you send that over to them and they don't tag you, then you're losing out because you're not leveraging that for your own channel. So it should be a partnership type thing where you use that product and you make a video or take a photo using their product and promoting it, whether that be aggressively or passively promoting it, and then you tag them and then they can repost it. So that way you've got eyes on their company from your audience, and from their audience they've got eyes on you as well, and they might discover you and really align with your story, or enjoy following your content as well. So you have to make sure that there's an agreement there with social media presence and interactions with the sponsor. So then another way to think about sponsorship is they want you to align with their values. So how do you value their values? Do you want the same things? Do you believe in the same things? Are they into cooking and you're into cooking? I mean, that's a very basic example. Are you someone who takes the environment very seriously? Then you might want to align with their values on environmental friendly products, for example. Those are just 2 very basic examples, but there's a lot of different angles you can take with thinking about this, and it takes some research, but really worth looking into. And then finally, clout. So if you have got some really good results in the past, if you've got a medal at Worlds or Olympics or some high prestige competition, then they're going to be leveraging that by saying, hey, we only choose the best. We work with the best athletes. And they like that as well. And this is a more rare thing to leverage as an athlete, to offer as a value proposition to a sponsor, because it's just more rare to make it that far. But you don't need to be the best to get sponsors. You need all these other things. So demonstrating their products, demonstrating their values, providing them with credibility for their product, which is basically just done through demonstrating that you're using it and liking it, and brand visibility. So if you find a sponsor approaches you, or you want to approach a sponsor, then what's the first step? How do you communicate with them? Well, you said you're having a hard time understanding how you might go about that, Maddie. And the thing is, you want to build that relationship before you even pitch them. I've done some research around this across the internet. I've also experienced this firsthand in a lot of different ways, not just sponsorship. And they want to hit the ground running when they choose you. If they choose you, they want to know that you're going to be responsive and that you're going to play your part of the agreement. And yeah, the only way to do that is basically by becoming buddies with them. You want to become friends with them, or at least friendly, because that builds trust. That means that they're going to feel a lot more comfortable striking a deal with you and going ahead with it and supporting you. And it will be a more genuine relationship as you keep building it, right? So the way you might do that is just, comment on some of their posts on social media. You might want to attend some of their events, talk to some of the staff, just get to know some people, make some connections online with some of them, and just put your face in front of them, support them a little bit. This is upfront value that they'll really appreciate and hopefully notice. It might not always though, but it's a good start. And then once you find you're able to communicate with them a little bit and you're getting some more touch points with them across the internet, maybe even in person, then you might want to approach them with a pitch. I feel like that's a whole other video, but when it comes to the pitch, you want to be keeping a few things in mind. So I've got some mistakes listed here. The timing of things. So most companies have a cycle of, it's their marketing department, right? So they have budgets and they need to decide what to do with that budget for the year by a certain time and then execute it. So the timing of when you look for sponsorship is really important most of the time. Some companies will be more flexible than others, or a bit different from others, but in general, June to August is a good time to start looking because you'll be getting in early, and then you'd be in the front of their mind as they're making those decisions. When it starts to get to summer, then they're getting really busy, probably with Christmas coming up and the festive season and everything. They've already made all those decisions beforehand, might have missed applications, and then in January they usually start the contracts off and get things up and running for the new year. Okay, so you need to be getting in touch with them well in advance, and before June to August when you apply, you want to be making the relationship happen before then. So this is really a long-term play. If you're serious about getting a big sponsorship, is you might want to start building the relationship with them in January, say January 2026, to then get the sponsorship in January 2027. That's the ideal world, but I know being an athlete and you want things quickly and we're striving to get things done quickly. So just keep that in mind, that a bit of delayed gratification goes a long way with this. And it is a process, but it'd be well worth it in the end if you find a really good fit. Might alleviate some pressure financially or give you some opportunities that you wouldn't have already had before. So that's where you got to think about what you want from it as well. So when it comes to sponsorship, obviously I just want to reiterate some misconceptions. Companies don't need to sponsor anyone. They don't have money to burn, and they're not sponsoring you because you're good at your sport. They're sponsoring you to do all the things listed in the first section here. So keep that in mind. Other mistakes that athletes make when they're approaching a business for sponsorship is saying, I'll do anything. And there's a couple of reasons why that's not the best approach. Number one, don't do that to yourself, because you want to scope things out and make sure you're clear on expectations. Otherwise, they're going to rope you into doing way more than you can afford to do, basically. That's worth it for what they're doing back for you as well. So you want to be firm, or at least very clear on how you want this to work. You want to understand what you can offer them and present that to them in a way that's very clear. No proposal. So you need a pitch deck, and there's a very specific way to do it. And I'm still working on figuring that out exactly, but showcasing past results and your bio first thing is not the way to do it. They don't care that much about all of your results, and they can Google it, but they get nothing from what you've done in the past. That's how they think. They're not looking for what you've done in the past, because they can't leverage it that much. What they want to know is what you can do for them, what you're going to do, and specifically for them, because if you're just talking about your results, then all they're doing is betting on what you might achieve later, and that's not a very good bet for a business who's looking for a return on investment. Okay, so yeah, if you want to talk about your bio, you might want to put that on the last slide. There's other, you want to be putting together packages or services or agreements or things like that that work in a partnership type of way, where you're thinking about the benefit for them and for you, and you can pitch that to them in a way that's really compelling. Yeah, so the final mistake is not doing your research and trying to build a relationship with the potential sponsor prior to pitching. So yeah, as I said before, that can be quite a process in itself, but think about who you already know as well. That's an important factor. You can definitely get a lot out of your current contacts and even referrals. Okay, so friends of friends, just think outside the box and leverage whatever relationships you already have as well, and how you might be able to work with people. So that's a lot of rambling, but hopefully that covers that question for you, Maddie. And if you have any more specific questions for any of these points, feel free to drop them down and I'll do my best to cover them, right? So we've got another question here, which I'll address now. This is from Leroy. So he said, keep it up. Love this time. Thank you. As a full-time athlete, you'd be training multiple times a day. How did you create a good sport, work, and general life balance? How difficult was it to manage your time, money, and social life? Fantastic question. It wasn't easy. I didn't manage it very well, if I'm honest. I don't think there's ever a perfect way to do anything, though, when it comes to something like sport. Just going to have a sip of my cold shot. So, sport. Well, schedule in Melbourne, it was initially, I think it was strength and conditioning 3 times a week. It was like a Monday morning, Wednesday morning, and Friday morning. No, yeah, that's right. So there was 3 strength and conditioning sessions when the program first started, and then there was Taekwondo Monday to Friday. So that's 8 sessions. And yeah, that was a fair bit, especially when I was doing hospo work when I first moved there. So yeah, the first 2 years for me were really, really, really tough. The toughest years of my life by miles. That's because I had no skills, no qualifications for jobs. I didn't know where I was going to be staying. I didn't have a car, so it was hard for me to get around on the tram all the time sometimes, because I lived, maybe a 45-minute tram ride away, which isn't the worst, but, if you missed the tram, you'd be late for training. So it was, so my hospo jobs were all over the place with the schedule. They were casual or part-time jobs. That's varied hours from during the day to then graveyard shifts, we call them, so all night. So you'd be often flipping the schedule from during the week. I would be training and trying to live with a regular sleep schedule, and then on the weekend I would just completely flip it. And that was very, very tough, because sleep is one of the most important things you have for recovery as an athlete, and that definitely had a big toll on my mental health at the time. I was working very hard and long hours, trying to cram all of my work into the weekend. So that was how I started. I also had no friends there. I moved there on my own. So yeah, very tough. I do have to shout out to the Victorian Institute of Sport. They helped me get a job at Crown Casino through a connection when I first moved there. So that was very handy for me. But yeah, doing hospo and sport is not the best option for sure. You want to be looking for something more flexible, especially if you're physically required somewhere for work. It's a tough gig. So yeah, I was just training during the week, working all weekend, sleeping every other time I could, and still not quite earning enough because it was just hospo. So then what happened from there? Let's talk about, well, the sports schedule. It didn't change that much throughout. It shifted a little bit each year. Towards the end, as I was trying to put on weight and go up a weight category, my training volume went down a bit, so it was really helpful for work and flexibility. And it helped me actually stay a little hungrier for training a bit less. Like, that was handy for me. And so how did my work evolve? So I started at Crown, then I hopped around various cafe and bar jobs, and some of them were really nasty to me about my schedule. I had one guy who yelled at me after the 2 weeks because he would give me one shift every 2 weeks, every week on a Saturday. It was like a 2-hour shift or something. And by then I would have just obviously valued a Crown Casino shift over that. And so when I chose Crown and I cancelled on him, he lost it. And I said, I'm handing back my uniform tomorrow. So I handed back that uniform and did not go and work that job anymore. There are other places that were a bit better, that had a little bit of flexibility. And then finally I landed this cafe job that I stayed with for a while because they were really friendly. I was able to build a good relationship with them. And yeah, they were able to schedule me on at times where in between the training. So there's usually a morning and afternoon training. So I could work in between, and that was really handy. And then I just still work around on the weekends. And then COVID happened. So then, by this point I'd been in the program for maybe 2 or 3 years. And I was at a critical point of debt where I wasn't earning enough money and I didn't have enough funding. And yeah, I think I was like $6,000 in debt at this point and freaking out and thinking, I don't know how much longer I can keep this up for. Yeah, so then COVID happened and I got a job at Woolworths because they needed workers in Woolworths at the shopping centres, which were in big demand at the time. So I would work 38 hours a week and then train. So I had exemptions to go and train. So I was actually fully working and training all through COVID, which was handy. And I was able to get myself out of debt over those, was it 1 or 2 years of constant lockdowns and restrictions and no travel. So the travel was the big burner of my money. Paying thousands of dollars to go over to Europe was no easy thing on a hospital salary. And then, so got out of debt. And also on the side, I started to build my freelancing skills. And I knew this was crucial because when I came back, I knew I'd just sink back into debt again if I didn't have something online and flexible. And also saw the earning potential for online work. And depending on how skilled you are, you can get paid a lot. So that was the idea. And so I applied for a few apprenticeships. There was this guy who was trying to start a digital marketing agency. He had a lot of experience as account manager and other ones in the past and knew a lot. So he was mentoring me and I was putting in a lot of work for him because I was just loving doing the online work, to be honest. I found it very interesting and engaging. And I wanted to learn the skills before we had to travel again. So I worked with him for about 1.5 years, I think. And then he pivoted and started an e-commerce store instead, which I helped him build. And then we separated and I started freelancing. So I did that for about a year, just on my own. I did my own outreach and client acquisition and servicing. So I was doing everything by myself. It was a scary time because it was an irregular income and I was still sort of learning by trial and error and screwing things up for a lot of people. But that's how I learned what works and what doesn't, on top of lots of YouTube and Google searching. From there I actually got this client. I was in Paris at the time. This is when we were traveling again. And I had to get up for 6 a.m. to meet this client for the first time, just to see if they needed my help. And they employed me to run some Facebook ads. Actually, I was a contractor, but then later down the line, they actually decided to employ me in-house. And that's my main job now, still to this day. So I've been working with them for maybe 3 or 4 years now. And they're a phenomenal team. I love what they do. And the experience it's given me is insane. So it's amazing what opportunities can arise when you go out there and try and get whatever you can. And that's where the flexibility came from, was just reaching out, just asking anybody for opportunities online, and it came about. So that's something you can do as well. I really had to just push myself forward and with brute force into this space. And it's definitely a way you can do it. From there I was a bit more stable. I also used my tax return as the last straw at one point to get funding. I needed to get a medal at the Croatian Open in order to secure some funding. Otherwise, I was pretty sure I was going to fall into too much debt and not be able to continue. So here's what it's my proudest moment, to be honest. It was the hardest fight of my life. I was actually really sick at the time. Here it is. I secured that bronze medal and was able to get a bit of support. I think it allowed me to get 50% funded trips, which was a massive relief for me. That's a competition. But then in my semi, in the next fight after I secured that bronze medal, I got kicked in the face pretty hard. So this was me afterwards with a glass of wine and a black eye and my medal, and I was pretty happy still. And then I saw so anyway, I'm getting a bit sidetracked here, but it was very hard to manage everything. I sort of didn't mention the social life, but that grew after about 2 years, mainly through my girlfriend. She went to uni and met some people, and then we got in contact with their friends, and then we ended up doing social netball every Wednesday night and hung out on the weekends. And my friends just continued to grow in Melbourne to a point where, it got really difficult. I started having to say no to a lot of things while at Fleet, a lot of activities that I needed to just rest for training instead of going out and hanging out with them all the time. So, but I was very grateful for them, and I still love all of those people back home. So yeah, social life's really important. I definitely sacrificed recovery that I probably needed for my social life, but I think for my mental health, like, there's always a trade-off for everything, right? And I think it was better for me to spend some time with people I really enjoy the company of, and have that break away from being so serious all the time about sport. And that was just a mindset thing for me, and everyone's different. Some people like to stay laser focused and isolate themselves a bit more, and others prefer to be social butterflies, and I'm definitely one of those social butterfly types when it comes to social life. So yeah, it took a while. It took 2 years to find friends, and that's often what happens when you move cities. So that's my story in Melbourne and the high performance program. And it got easier as things went along, but it was slow going. It took a long time to build things up. Okay, let's move on to another question. Question 3. Thank you, Bailey. Where was this when I was an athlete? Keep it up, dude. You're going to help so many. I certainly hope so. I might just like these as I go to showing it off. Answer them. Train 2. This is Geordie, my last housemate before I left Melbourne. Absolute legend. He is an amazing soccer player in Melbourne, and he runs training camps for kids as well. And really lovely bloke, and had a great time living with him, and looking forward to catching up with you, Geordie, when we go back to Melbourne. So he said, cheers, thanks for sharing your story and advice. Will there be more videos, and where can you get more help? Yeah, absolutely, there's going to be more videos. If you need more help, just ask any question you want in the comments, and I will answer them as best I can. And if you need even more help, in the description of my videos, I've got my email, I've got my LinkedIn, Instagram, and even a little newsletter sign up option, which I might start later. So yeah, you can get in contact with me easily through the YouTube channel and through the links in the descriptions. But yeah, I probably prefer just ask a question in the comments, and I can cover it in as much detail as possible in these videos. So yeah, I plan to start every video with Q&A and address all of these up front. So how do you balance school or work with competitive sport? And this is an awesome question, because I did it all through school and through my work life. So let's talk about that. School. If you're still in school and you're needing to go to compete overseas or interstate, or take time off school, or even take time off school just to train more and take it more seriously, first of all, work hard in school, because then your teacher's going to like you, and you're going to have a much easier conversation with them when it comes to asking for time off school. Okay, so that's the case in work as well. When you're talking to your employer, you're going to make sure that you work hard for them, and so you earn their respect, and so that gives you brownie points. It's just the way the world works. You're going to have much easier conversations with them about taking time off, about they're going to support you more and like you more and get behind what you're doing. So work hard for them in school, negotiate with teachers. So you might not be able to submit an assignment because you might be doing a competition that day, or you might have something you need to attend. Just make sure that you're organized and warn them before that happens. Okay, in school, it was in maybe year 10 or 11, I was in this music program, and there was like this, I was in a percussion ensemble, and I had a part that I had to play in that, and it was actually a very important assessment piece for the year 12s that were part of that band. And I told my music teacher a week before I had to go on a taekwondo trip, because I forgot to tell him. I said, hey, by the way, I'm not going to be available for this performance. And yeah, I definitely had a big talking to for about half an hour on the spot right there and then. And that taught me to use the calendar and to be organized and to respect people's time and efforts, and tell them up front, maybe a month in advance, or even as soon as you find out. Really, you should be telling everyone that you need to about what's coming up and warning them that you're going to be absent. So that's very important. Don't learn that the hard way like I did. When it comes to the management of workload for homework, this is how I used to do it at school, and it worked really well for me, just from a productivity side and also a mental side. So what I'd do is, say I had 1,000 word essay, 100 pages of a book to read, and a video assessment to complete. How would I manage that? It's all due in 1 week. Well, what I would do is I would look at the essay and say, I've got 1,000 words to write in 1 week's time. So what's 1,000 divided by 7? Let's talk about that. I'm terrible with maths. 1,000 divided by 7 is 142 words. So I need to write 142 words of that essay every day. And that doesn't seem like too much to me. That's not much at all. So I'd think about it like that. And then I would do the first 142 words of the essay. And you know what would happen? I would actually end up writing 500 words and probably get halfway to it, because my perception of what I had to complete that day was, it's not much, that's fine, I'll get through it, no worries. And often the hardest thing, and you'll know that from training, is getting started, getting up off your ass and starting the session. Or, getting up in the cold, in winter, putting your training gear on and heading over to the gym. That's the hardest part, is getting started. So it's the same with work, same with school. Divide it up, make it mentally easy for yourself. So I do that with the essay, I do that with the video assessment. Maybe I'd split it into planning, recording, and then submitting. I need to split things up equally across the time you have, and it's not going to seem like much. Like homework in school, it can seem overwhelming, but really people get into trouble when they look at it and put it off for ages and then have to do it overnight, last minute. And I don't think that's a very good way to work, because you'll find you'll get things done earlier and much more than you expected when you get your head stuck into something and get into that deep workflow. Okay, so those are my school tips that I'd say for managing sport. So work hard, negotiate, be organized, and manage your homework. And those are all great things to do in all areas of your life, by the way. So these are some skills that being an athlete teaches you. For work, there's a few other things to talk about, and that's aim for a fitting job. So, online works better, in my opinion. I'm going to stand by that. Try not to work in hospital or something low paying that requires you to work overnight or do something crazy. That's just not a fitting job for what you're trying to achieve, right? Especially if you're aiming for something big. Be bold and adaptable. So if you don't like a job, if they're not treating you right, if they're not holding up your contract properly, don't be afraid to leave. My mindset was, I left jobs even when I had no money, because I had nothing to lose. At the time, I was like, okay, look, I might be unemployed for a week or two, and it's going to suck, but doing this job sucks even more, and I'm sure there's something better out there that will treat me better. So be bold, be adaptable, don't be afraid to jump around jobs if you need to find something that works. If people are treating you badly, if people are not accommodating your needs, flexibility, and especially if you've warned them beforehand, then it is what it is. You got to move on. You've got to be a little bit cutthroat when it comes to sport sometimes. Again, work hard, like at school, leverage those brownie points, be friends or at least friendly with your co-workers and boss, because then it's going to be much easier to arrange things with them, get shifts covered, take time off, all those things, and they're going to support you a lot more. Negotiate with your employer and co-workers. I think I just said that point. What am I doing? And be organized and warn your employer, co-workers for upcoming events as soon as you find out about them. Gives them as much time as they can to prepare, to cover your shifts, to employ someone else to cover you for that time, whatever it is. Okay, so that's my best advice for all of that, and I hope that helps. Okay, so that's the end of the Q&A for today. Leave more comments. I think that's enough time for this video, and that was enough ground to cover. So please just ask any question, anything at all, and I will do my best to help you directly. Thanks again for watching, guys. Looking forward to the next one, and keep training hard. Catch you next time.